I arrived at Haneda Airport on May 22nd, 2023. My goal was to ride my bicycle from Tokyo to the northernmost point of Japan. I stayed in Tokyo for the first 4 days to get over the jet lag and do some sightseeing. I knew I'd be in Tokyo again after I finished biking, so I went to the places I absolutely wanted to see. Alright, first stop of the trip, Meiji Shrine. Let's go. I left the Meiji Shrine and now I'm walking to Shibuya Crossing. Walking up to Sensoji right now. It's gonna be fun. 2 hours of sleep last night, but that's okay. I had some friends in Japan before I arrived, and they threw a big party for me to send me off on my ride. The first day I rode about 40 miles, and I was navigating the city streets and along the river trails to get out of the Tokyo metropolitan area. I'm including these flyovers of my route so you can see exactly what I rode through each day. First Tokyo Tower, and now Tokyo Skytree, along with Boathouse. Nice. Continuing to cycle along the Edo River. It's nobody really out here. Nobody along the path at all. I think I have another 20 or 30 miles until my hotel. So I'm just gonna keep going. The 26th was another day of flat riding along river trails. This was also the first day I stopped at a Michinoaki, which is basically a Japanese roadside station that you can get food or just rest. Just looking at what I'm gonna have to conquer tomorrow. A little bit scared for the mountains, but see how it goes. On the 27th, I started to head into the mountains. I planned to stay at a campsite that night before heading to Nikko the next day. I'm about 10 or 15 miles into the mountains, and it's kind of hard. It's been kind of up and down and not too steep, so it's been okay, but it's really, really nice. Campsite owner allowed me to stay in one of the campers they had for free. The 28th was a short ride up to Nikko, which is a World Heritage Site. I stayed in a ryokan, which is a traditional Japanese inn, which is really nice. After only 3 days, I had already ridden 143 miles. On the 29th, I took a day off to enjoy the sights and to avoid a day of rain. I'm at Kegon Falls right now. There's nobody here except the school groups and the fog. Here's the falls. Kind of walking around town, and it is dead. There's nobody out. The only people here are the tourists for the falls. Maybe just because it's a Monday, rainy Monday. But yeah. I didn't do much besides ride this day. I did see a recreation of Mount Rushmore, which is kind of interesting. I arrived to a campsite, but it ended up being closed. I decided to stay there anyway though, because I didn't want to go any further. I saw a few workers, but they didn't seem to care I was staying. So I'm headed out of Nikko and cycling through, I think, like 20 miles around, and this town is just dead, way out of its heyday. There's just tons of abandoned high-rises. This one looks still working, but like at one point this town was a big attraction, and now it's not. But it remains. But still like beautiful. This runs right down through the middle. Crazy. The 31st was a day of big climbs, big descents, and long tunnels through the mountains. I even passed through an Edo-style village. It ended up being sort of a tourist attraction though, nowhere near as impressive as the scenery. decided to take 2 days to rest and shelter from the coming rain. Walking through Sensaido. Double Helix. Temple. It's pretty cool. It took me 4 hours to ride these 20 miles, as 7 miles of it was a steep mountainous climb. It was worth it though, as I was able to set my tent up right on the lake. It was one of the best campsites of the whole trip. It was 35 miles and a 2,500 foot climb to an onsen town, where I'd stay the night in a hostel and enjoy a good bath. As I climbed over the mountains, I could start to smell the sulfur that seeps out of the ground. Big climb today, but it's a bit of a concert. Almost at the top. I didn't do much on the 5th besides ride and stay in a hostel for $21. Feelings of loneliness would come and go, but while I was riding, my head was clear. Long hours on the bike became meditative for me. Once again on a river trail outside of Fukushima. On the 6th, I made it to Sendai, where I stayed with my grandpa's former student's family. I tried the specialties of edamame shakes, beef tongue, and wagyu steak while exploring the historic city. I was at mile 351. Next, I rode along the coast to Oshinomaki, where I stayed an extra day to avoid some rain. I visited a museum documenting the destruction of the 2011 tsunamis that affected the region. It was one of the most impactful places of the trip. The next day, I biked to a campsite on the rocky coast. One of my friend's friends also took me to dinner for some local salmon. At this point, I was getting annoyed with the constant up and down of the hills along the coast. I preferred the one long climb and one long descent that the mountains offered. The concrete tsunami fortifications were not particularly scenic either, so I decided to take the train inland. With this detour, I'd also be able to check out some World Heritage sites. To get on the train with my bike, I needed to cover it with a tarp. It was a bit cumbersome, but I was able to manage. So I climbed 1,000 feet to get to this campsite, and nobody was here. So I decided to just set up anyway. And here's the view, and the fog is rolling in. It's rained half the day. So, but tomorrow I'm gonna stay in an onsen because for $30, if I can avoid doing this, might as well. I spent the first half of the day exploring the various temples and gardens around the World Heritage Site area. This included the Chusonji Temple, which is completely covered in gold leaf. After feeling right at home at the American World Shopping Center, I made it to the onsen for the night. With traditional rooms, tight maze-like corridors, and relaxing baths, it was the quintessential onsen experience. After waiting out some rain in the morning, I rode to Morioka. I took an extra day just to relax, do some light sightseeing, and try the local cuisine. At this point in the trip, I was feeling less lonely and more comfortable with life on the road. Morioka jajangmyeon is a local dish that you eat in 3 stages. It was pretty good. On the 15th, I was back in the countryside, heading to a ryokan in a very small town. The next morning, I rode down the street and turned right around to stay an extra night. The rain was so heavy I felt like I was going to be washed off the road. The 17th was over 2,000 feet of climbing and a steep winding descent into Towada Lake. The views were very beautiful. And I was thinking about how this is the side of Japan a lot of tourists don't get to see. I'm at this campsite right now, and the wind is crazy. There's a lot of wind. And I'm tired. It's my usual tent setup. So, let's see if you can hear the wind. But where my tent setup is pretty sheltered, so it's all okay. The next day, I rode through Orirase Gorge on my way to Aomori City. It was really beautiful. However, it came with a price, as I had a 2,000 foot climb to get out of it. Very beautiful to ride along. There's some waterfalls before, but I didn't get them on camera. Hopefully there'll be some more interesting stuff along the way. But it seems like you can just hike right along here. 19th, I was back on the coast. I rode to a small beachside camping area, and for lunch, I had a magnificent bowl of tuna. Watching this beautiful sunset on this beach. Very nice. On the 20th, I stayed at Osorizan Temple. It was one of the most unique experiences of the trip. Amenities at the hotel included a morning Buddhist prayer, an intercom telling all guests when it was time to eat, and various onsen baths to relax in. I hate walking around with selfie sticks, but this is what's gonna happen. We're here at this temple in the middle of the mountains. Very cool. I'll give you a tour of the hotel I'm staying in tonight that is on the mountain with the temple. So you come in, big open area. Toilet. Sinks with no soap. Bedroom, my stuff airing out. Another room. Traditional. No Wi-Fi, no TV. Just you and this magnificent view out the window. And also air conditioner that blows hot air. So you have to open the window to cool off. So, very cool. There is just total silence. On the 21st, I made it to Cape Oma, the northernmost point in mainland Japan. I hung out with a motorcycle tourist and stayed at a free campsite right on the Cape. It is June 21st, and I have made it to Cape Oma, the northernmost point in Honshu. So, very famous for tuna. This is a big tuna and tuna merchandise. But yeah, this is the northernmost point. Cannot go any more north, except to Hokkaido, which will be tomorrow. So, it's definitely felt like this is a milestone, more than halfway through. Crazy. At this point, I was 783 miles into my tour, and seeing as I couldn't bike any further north, I took the ferry to Hakodate, the first stop in Hokkaido. Economy tickets did not come with a seat, so I sat on the floor with the rest of the passengers for the 90-minute voyage. While I was at Osorizan, I had met a monk. Our paths crossed when we were getting on the ferry, and he invited me to dinner with him and his son. In the moment, I could not believe that I was getting drinks with a monk in the middle of Japan. I spent a few more days in Hakodate, meeting some new and old friends. I took it easy the first day back on the bike. I rode through a national park on the way to a campground. The campsite employees were intrigued by my blonde hair and blue eyes. Hakodate was a little bit weird, as it was the first time in a while that I'd seen a bunch of other foreigners. On the 27th, I rode to a small campground. Besides that, there isn't much to report. A lady gave me a whole loaf of cheese bread while I was at a rest stop. The next day, I reached Lake Toya, riding past some magnificent rock formations on the coast and through 13 kilometers of tunnels to get there. I checked out the ruins from a past volcanic eruption and the fireworks show they host on the lake. About 80 miles north of Hakodate, and it is foggy, as it has been the past few days. So, at least it's kind of cool out. This is a tunnel in Japan. 29th, I got to Noboribetsu, which is an onsen town famous for the area called Hell's Valley. I spent an extra day there hiking and enjoying the hot springs. The onsen I visited had over 12 types of baths to try. The next day, I rode to a small campsite in Chitose. On the way, I stopped at a bird sanctuary and got stopped by a civilian bike patrol for not making a complete stop at a stop sign. That night, I got invited by a group of friends to join their barbecue. They taught me how to say the slang of bicycle in Japanese. On the way to Sapporo, I stopped at the Kirin Beer Factory for a tour. Kirin was my favorite beer in Japan, so it was nice to see how it was made and get some special samples. And don't worry, I also visited the Sapporo Beer Factory in Sapporo itself. At Sapporo, I had hit 1,000 miles of riding. I took a few days to relax and explore the city. Leaving Sapporo marked the final stretch of the journey. At this point, I was feeling a bit burnt out, but I knew I had to push to reach my goal. At the rural onsen I stayed in, I had a duck hot pot. On the 6th, I rode to Furano, which is famous for its large lavender fields. The route between Mikasa and Furano was mostly uninhabited, so I was a bit nervous riding alone. I had to carry plenty of snacks to get me through the climbs of the day. Surrounded by lavender fields, and you can smell it and taste it when you get the lavender ice cream. It's good. The next morning, I left my hillside campground and stopped at Shirogane Blue Lake. It was very blue because of the aluminum in the water. Then I made my way to the next city, where I stopped at an onsen and had lunch. Journeyed on to the next campsite, stopping at Michinoaki on the way. When I got to the site, I put out a tarp and took a nap right on the ground. The past 2 days were catching up with me. An old couple at the site invited me to eat dinner with them, which was really nice. On the 9th, I stayed at a campsite behind an onsen. I took a bath and ate dinner there. Typical lunch on the road for me. Some pre-made food or whatever, maybe fruit or something. And I decided to get this drink today because it's hot. But then I would just sit on the edge. Yeah. The next day, I reached the coast once again. I stayed in a writer's house, which is basically an ultra-cheap accommodation for travelers. I met a fellow bike tourist and an American guy from Gary, Indiana. In the middle of the night, I woke up shoulder to shoulder with 4 drunk motorcycle tourists. It was not the most comfortable experience, but a pretty funny one. On the 11th, I rode to Wakkanai, northernmost city in Japan. The road there was totally flat, so I made some good time. I took an extra day to rest before my final push to the northernmost point. I had ridden almost 300 miles in the past 7 days. It's 5 a.m. We are 40 miles from Wakkanai, so trying to beat some rain. So it should go quick though, it's all flat.
on my way to Soya Misaki, and there's 25-mile-per-hour headwinds and heavy rain on the way. Gotta go fast.
By bicycle. It's been a really fun trip. Now, cycling is done. So, I guess I don't know what else to say. Except that it's windy and cold. And possibly rainy. So, but it's been good. It's been a good trip. So I'm glad I was able to accomplish my goal. So, it doesn't seem like I'm super happy, but I am. I'm definitely happy. So, yes. And with that, 50 days after I left Tokyo, my bike journey had come to an end. But that was not the end of my vacation. I still had 3 more weeks in Japan before I had to go back to the US. I would use this time to hang out with friends and do some more traditional sightseeing. But first I had to get back to Tokyo. I took a variety of trains and an 18-hour ferry to get there. It was nice to not have to use my legs to get where I wanted to be. The ferry docked in Aomori, where there was a summer festival.